First Updates Now is brought to you by viewers like you. Fun relies on the generous support of our fans in order to continue to keep creating content. Please consider donating, giving bits, or subscribing. Subscribe for a few bucks a month or for free through Twitch Prime. And don't forget that our subscribers get 5x chance to win on all giveaways.
And welcome to FTC Live, airing on First Updates Now. Over the next half hour, we're having an exclusive interview with one of the world's division finalists, East Super Regionals division finalist, one-man team from Vincenttown, New Jersey, Jack from Team 9977, or if you aren't the Detroit World's MC, 9971, the LANbros. Reporting for FTC Live, I'm Ethan.
I'm Shashir, and if you have any questions that you'd like to be read during this show, please tag at First Updates Now and type in your question into chat. We're going to be basically following the same procedure as we did in our last one with Rednecks, if you guys are watching. And with that, Jack, would you like to tell us a little bit about your team?
Sure. So this is the team's third year in FTC, and then this is personally my 9th year in first total.
All right.
Yeah.
Wow. So, I mean, obviously we call you a team. Most of the people now know that you're a one-man show. So that's honestly for me super impressive, like that you managed to do all of that. So can you take us a little bit through your process as to how you do that and like how you're able to manage your time with that?
So pretty much the main thing about being a one-man team is lots of time to spend on the robot. I spend quite a bit of time on it. Yeah. So I started out the season, what I do to start out, like, just about every season is set goals for what I want the robot to be, and then obviously plan around the tournament schedule in case, like, a rebuild's needed, like I did the past 2 seasons.
Wow.
So what I usually do is I set goals for what I want the robot to be, like how fast I want it to be, what teleop should look like, what autonomous should look like, and then what the end goal is for the robot to be in, like, by worlds, pretty much. So, like, this season, it started out, like, I had a completely different robot than the one I had at Detroit. It was front scoring with, like, it was like a claw robot, but had intake wheels on the front. And that was really good for early events, but then by December, I kind of realized that it's not going to hold up just because multi-glyph isn't going to work out great with a front scoring robot. So then I completely rebuilt to a back scoring robot, and then that turned out pretty well, I think.
It definitely.
I would say so.
In terms of what you guys had in the beginning, I know there was a little bit of controversy when you released that video. That was just a blur. Personally, like, I somewhat agree with that strategy. We saw that what happened with NC Gears this year. We saw what happened with 207 this year, as like just creating a metabot that everyone copies. But like, could you like give us some insight as to like what you think about doing that kind of thing?
Do you mean by like what I feel about teams copying, or what I feel about?
Well, a little bit of both. What do you feel about like posting videos that don't show much, and at the same time, what do you feel about teams that sort of like copy a meta?
So I mean, I think like copying is already guaranteed to happen every season. It's just teams get inspired by other teams, and that's completely fine. I personally don't like it when teams just completely copy and don't really innovate any of the robot themselves. But I think that usually like really doesn't happen ever, because teams always bring their own ideas to what their own robot's going to be. You're never going to see like a carbon rock copy of a different robot. I think not sharing your robot, that's whatever. It's your robot. You don't have to share with people. And like the video that I released with the blur was just kind of a way to show like, hey, I'm at here right now, and this is what my robot can do in early October. It wasn't really to say I'm better than everybody. It was just to say this is what my robot can do right now, and I wanted to like act as a marker for teams to say, oh, this is where other teams are right now. We should try to be right there. And that, from like when teams told me at competition stuff, that's actually what they said. So I think even though there's a lot of controversy behind that, I think it wasn't that bad.
I have to agree with that. Honestly, like that's what prompted my redesign. Our team basically saw that and we sort of like realized, wait, this should be the status quo right now. We're nowhere near it, so we need to do something drastic. So thank you for that on behalf of my team.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. So we're going to go into our subscriber promo. Whether you're watching live or archived, we need your help to keep FTC Live and First Updates Now going. You can subscribe to First Updates Now on Twitch, give bits, or give a donation. If you're watching on YouTube, there's a link in the description to how you can help fund. And thank you for everyone who's chosen to step forward to support shows like FTC Live. We'll announce all of the subscribers and donors who've received since our last show near the end of this show, and make sure to let everyone know on your team or network about our shows so we can continue to grow our community.
All right. With that, I would like to go into a few of the questions. One of the things that I sort of just want to get out of the way, everyone's always asking about like what happened with your disconnect. You've explained it quite a bit, but just for our audience here, could you just briefly go into why finals match 2, why the disconnect, and why the eventual loss happened?
So the disconnect was just a static disconnect. Like if you went down, like when we first got to Ford Field, like the field was on carpet on however they raise it, and there's carpet below that. So if you walked around, you could touch the field, you get a static shock. You touch another person, you get a static shock. And we checked literally every wire. We replaced the phone before elimination matches. Like at Kobo, it was completely fine. On the tables, it was fine. But then we get to Ford Field, and that happens. Then with the little amount of time they gave us to prepare, we couldn't really do much, but like we taped the sides of the drivetrain, we used dryer sheets. So everything seemed good, but then we got to the field and it disconnected in auto. So there was no really way to avoid that happening, I guess.
Yeah, that's very disappointing, and it makes. I mean, yeah. Just a little bit going upon that, how do you feel that like first accommodated, or how do you think that first really worked with the new venue? Obviously, there's a new venue, like this was completely new. Last year, Houston was like an absolute dumpster fire. I'm very sorry. I'm very sorry. I'm going to be candid here. It was terrible. How do you think that, how do you think that for Ford Field or the Cabo Center, I forget which one, stacked up to that? Was first like good at dealing with this new venue?
So I really liked Kobo Center as the venue. Ford Field was really cool to be a part of, like to like look up and see 40,000 people in the stands. But for how first prepared it, I don't think it was that great, because obviously they knew about the static. If you walked around there, you could feel the static, and there was not much done to fix the static. So I don't think they prepared it that great in that sense.
That's true. Yeah, and in terms of like both you and one of those FRC robots disconnected, that was super disappointing to see. Like, okay, you're at finals, you're at Da Vinci, you're at Einstein finals, and like this is happening now. That was very disappointing. To move on a little bit, Snoop Doggy Doge from the chat asked, what program do you code in?
Android Studio.
Yeah, that's what I figured. All right. Yeah, could you expand a little bit about how you're programming, like how you work, how you iterate through your programming, and how you sort of progress through the season?
So for like early tournaments, I just started out and made a basic 85-point autonomous. But when I rebuilt, I focused like completely around multi-glyph, and pretty much I just set like I created a path pretty much like in my head of what I wanted the robot to do, and then just started using sensors, and then just started coding, basing it off of the original 85-point autonomous. Oh. And then that just iterated because from states to supers, I only focus on the closed crypto box, so I didn't have multi-glyph for the far crypto box. But then for worlds, I realized like gluten trees in my division, I'll never be the best at the closed crypto box. So I focused completely on creating a new autonomous designed around for forklifts and auto. And I think the thing that really helped with my autonomous was actually the hardware, not really the code itself. Like I personally think the code was pretty good, but having the dual arm on the back sped up autonomous by a lot. Because for the closed crypto box, I wouldn't have to do a 90-degree turn. And then for the far crypto box, I could just drive off the stone immediately and then get a second glyph, which allowed speed, because speed is so important in auto, so that helps speed things up a lot.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, absolutely. So let me see. What do you have? Do you have any tips for teams who want to get to World's Championships this year with that are new or haven't gone there before?
I think the biggest thing is just being able to put in time to, like, just put in time for the robot and for your notebook and everything. Like, if I didn't spend the time I did on the robot, I don't think I'd be at Worlds. And I think the biggest thing is just being willing to learn and then putting in the time to learn about what you're doing and then how to accomplish what your goals are for the season.
That's right. So, quick question. I'm not sure if you actually weighed your robot or not, but how heavy was your robot this year? It seemed actually quite light. Yeah, so
it was somewhere between 20 and 25 pounds, probably more towards the 20-pound side, and it was designed that way just so that it would be as fast as possible.
That's
and
right.
Then what gear ratio were you running on that?
It was just orbitals 1-to-1.
Okay.
Oh, nice. Okay, so and like just building upon that question, like for you personally, do you think that you're gonna that like a weight limit is going to impact your team or like impact the teams around you significantly?
So I've personally never even been close to 40 pounds with the robot, so I don't think it'll impact me much. For teams around me, there's only one team I know of that builds really heavy robots in New Jersey, so it might impact them, but other than that, I don't think it's a big deal for teams.
Yeah, 42 pounds is pretty big.
That's very fair. I got to say, like, for me, it's just a little different because I've built, 70 pounds, 45 pounds, 60 pounds, and this year was a little lighter. But, like, yeah, so it's gonna be fun. Another question that was from the chat was,
let me see.
Let's see, yeah. Do you like or not like having any teammates to disagree with? Not having any teammates to disagree with?
I mean, sure, it's cool to like not disagree with people when making design choices, but having teammates is always a good thing because you don't have to do everything yourself. Like you have another person help build that helps speed things up a lot. Having somebody else just talk about general design the strategy with, or like help with autonomous or whatever, like I think having teammates, even if you disagree with them, sometimes is much better than doing it all alone.
So going off of that, are you doing some recruiting for next year? Because I know a lot of people would be interested.
Well, I live kind of in the middle of nowhere, so that makes it very hard to recruit. But I'll do my best.
Yes. So, Billion, we got a really interesting answer from Redneck. How much do you practice before competition, and how much of your time is built into driver practice?
So I never really like keep count of how much I do driver practice, but like there will be days where I spend like maybe 10 hours for the whole day just doing drive practice. And then like before competitions, I like to dedicate the last 2 weeks leading up to it solely to driver practice and auto. And like even when I'm running auto, after a few runs, I'll do some driver practice. And I think driver practice is probably one of the most important things every year that teams kind of like just think, oh yeah, we'll just learn to drive out of the competition, and it doesn't really work that way. So I've always tried to do as much drive practice as I can.
Yeah,
all right.
for sure.
One question that I did have, not from this year, but actually from last year. I believe last year that was the year where you were quite high ranked, but you didn't get picked. Is that correct?
Yeah.
Wait, what were you ranked exactly?
I think 27th.
Oh, all right. So you were like, you're one of those good teams, right? So like, how like I know this year, like you like, how important do you think like networking is in like getting picked? How important do you think that name recognition is in doing so?
I think name recognition is huge in getting picked. Just like being able to talk to teams and like having friends on teams that might be captains. Um, like networking is just huge in all of FTC, and knowing the teams around you and what they can do, that is also very helpful. Like I never really do much scouting because that's kind of hard when I'm also the only person on the team. But like for e-supers, I knew who to pick just because well, I picked out of the box and I knew them beforehand and we even practiced together. And then I knew like all the other teams in the division just by pre-scouting and then watching them when I could during matches and then having friends on those teams. And I think, yeah, it's like a huge part of a line selection. It's also a good way to make friends within the community too.
It definitely is. So one question that we did have from BF011 was, what do you think about the new the Rover Ruckus teaser video? It just came out, I think, yesterday or the day before. No, yesterday. So what are your thoughts?
I think it's very interesting. It doesn't really show much, but there are a couple things you can gather from it, like the ramp, and I personally think it might be like the 2008 game where you have to like drive off a ramp into the field, but I'm not sure because the teaser didn't really show much. Besides the jewels, I guess. I think those will be a game element.
Yeah, I could definitely see jewels. Do you think, because like spoilers for last year, they had a lot of missed scale. So we saw a lot of like the climbers from Rescue and they looked small and then they showed up as really big. Do you think we'll end up seeing like really off-scale jewels?
I mean, I think because they're having it like pick up the jewel with the claw, it'll probably be like enough scale that a claw can pick up the jewel. But maybe there will be other game elements that'll be a lot bigger in comparison.
Yeah.
One question that I do want to ask before we head out is I think we have a bit more time, but after you guys did start in Houston. I mean, you guys started a week after Houston, right? Detroit was just a week after. So you guys, I'm sure you guys saw Team 148, the Robo Wranglers, having some fun spinning at the end of Finals Match 2 as they were about to win. So like, did you guys ever think about doing that with your alliance? Because like you guys were obviously you were hitting the soft cap. Like if you looked at like Finals Match 2, you hit that soft cap with like 40 seconds remaining. Did you guys ever think about doing anything like that, or were you guys like, nah, we're not?
Well, I personally forgot like about any of that during the matches, but gluten free, you could see them like with the relic arm, they kept like extending it in and then bringing it back out. So I guess that kind of counts, but I personally forgot all about like showboating.
That was very impressive. I was really, really happy to see like soft caps being like broken with how many ever seconds remaining, like with like 45 seconds remaining. So that was super cool to see. Yeah. Sorry, were you about to say something?
I was just gonna say they were some pretty fun matches.
Yeah, definitely. So like, one question that I want to ask for the majority of like people who haven't been to Da Vinci finals and stuff, what was the entire experience? Like, okay, you've won your division, so like, what next? What did First do to take you from like here to the Cabo Center, and like to that championship finals? Ford Field.
So they had like as soon as division finals ended, they like prepped us on what's going to happen and how we're going to go about it. So we had to load all of our stuff into this big truck that they were taking to the venue, and then we could like designate 5 people on each team to go with us as like pick through, and then they took us to vans, and then the vans took us to the like tunnel entrance where we walked in and stuff, and then after that was just a lot of waiting for like the 4 hours from division finals ends to the start of event finals.
And what was the time gap between the first match and the second match? Like, I remember Houston was like an hour.
Yeah, it was an hour at Detroit too.
Nice. And one thing that I do want to ask is like, so it's an elevated field, right? Do they allow you to step on the field or no?
Yeah, they let us step on the field to like place the robots and everything. You had to step on it from like the front of the field where the relic mats were.
Yeah. Okay. And one final question that I had was, I noticed there were two other people with you. Like, who were they?
So the second driver is just a friend I have from another team. She's competed with me at a couple of other events before. The drive coach was a mentor. Um, he's been around since Velocity Vortex, and he kind of shows up every few weeks just to check on how things are going, and then like give input on what's happening.
That's awesome.
Is that kind of your standard kind of relationship with your mentors, or how much do you work with them in your design process?
So designing the robot, I do that all myself, and then like same with autonomous, and then he'll come in and he'll ask like why I'm doing something, and then if I'm stuck on something, you might help find a solution on how to fix it.
Very, very nice.
All right. So do we have any other questions?
I don't have any. All right, wait, I have one quick. Monitor Robotics or Rev, and why?
So I like Rev just because it's cheaper and like you don't have to have a ton of modules. Um, I think Modern Robotics gets a lot of undeserved hate though. Like I found when I used it in Velocity Vortex and Rescue, I didn't have many issues with it. But I like Rev just because it's only two modules, and even though you have to use like the adapter cable, it's still a lot more compact than Modern Robotics was.
Yeah, for sure.
And between one last question that I have is between Detroit and St. Louis, like you've been going to St. Louis for quite a while now. Which one did you like better? Like in terms of like general feel of the competition and just how like you would how you worked in the venue.
So I personally like St. Louis better. I think the main thing was Union Station, just like because it had the hotel built into where it was, you could just wake up and then walk into the pits instead of having to like wake up and then call an Uber or walk over to the convention center at Detroit.
That's true.
Okay.
All right.
I don't have anything else. Do you, Shashir?
No, I'm good. Thank you so much, Jack.
Yeah, for sure.
Oh, all right.
But
Can you rap?
well, I don't think I'm going to be performing on the stream.
Okay.
Maybe if you catch me in person, I could perform for you, but I don't know how I
So
feel about it
everybody
on the
has to
stream.
get to Worlds.
Yes, that's your motivation for Worlds now.
Yes. Get to Worlds to hear Jack rap. Okay, and thank you to all our followers we received today. Don't forget you can subscribe for free. If you or your parents have Amazon Prime, you can link that account with your Twitch account and subscribe. Thank you for helping keep FTC Live real and here.
On behalf of myself, Ethan, and our producer Tyler, working behind the scenes, I'd like to thank you all for tuning in. And also, Jack, thank you so much for being a guest on this show. As we go, we're gonna raid a random channel. So go ahead and check out IT I teched that right now and spam their channel. We'll be back next month with FTC Live. Talk to you next time. See you guys.